I think it's super, super important that you know what colleges you want to apply to and eventually what colleges you want to go to. Because every college or every university, every B school has a culture that you need to fit into well. Otherwise, you can feel out of place. So for me, there were, I'd say, three super critical, let's say, criteria. Right. Number one was I was more looking for a school that offers a general management curriculum. Because a lot of the schools, let's say in New York, have a slight edge towards finance and investment banking and that sort of industry. Schools, let's say in Texas, have a slight edge if you want to get into something that's a little more oil and gas, that kind of a sector, right? So I particularly wanted to, I applied to schools that had a more general management focus because I was not really sure what I wanted to do post MBA, right? I was not 100% sure. I wanted to keep my options open. So the schools that I shortlisted were more the ones that had a general management degree, right? That's number one, which is what kind of courses you want to take up. Number two is also the culture that I spoke about, right? Again, I wanted to be in a school that's not in a super big city, and this is not to take away anything from some of the amazing schools that are in big cities, right? So you have Booth in Chicago, you have Stern in New York, you have MIT and Harvard in Boston, all phenomenal schools. But I wanted to be in a school that has a more tightly knit culture. And what I mean by that is, so Duke obviously is in a little town called Durham in North Carolina, and to be honest, there's not a lot that you can do outside of school, right? So there's like a handful of restaurants, a handful of clubs, a handful of activities. Whereas if you're in a big city like New York or Chicago, there's so much to do, right? So in a way, my cohort was forced to spend time with one another, right? Which is why we built such strong bonds, because we did not have anything else to do except hang out with each other. And I think that kind of permeated in the school's culture itself as well, right? You build stronger bonds. Folks are always there to help you. So I think the second part is really choosing a school for its culture. And my personal belief is that schools that are slightly in smaller towns, because of the lack of options outside of school, you tend to build stronger bonds, right? And I think perhaps the last one will be what the school has to offer in terms of post-MBA employment opportunities, right? And what I mean by that is I'm going to take an exaggerated example here, but it's only to make a point. Like if you want to join, let's say, one of the big automotive firms like Ford, Chrysler, or General Motors or whatever, it's harder for you to sell that if you want to join NYU or the Stern school, the Stern Business School, right? It's just a harder sell because most people join Stern because they want to be either in investment banking or they want to be in the finance sector. So coming back to my point, the third important criteria is at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, what do you want to do post MBA? And that factors into what school you select. If you are like me, who wants to keep his or her options open, then you'd want to basically get into a school that has a slightly more general management outlook.
Right. All right.
Those were my criteria.